I feel like Mike Jordan. Give me the rock and I'm scoring. Hey, came from the bottom, that's foreign. I swear that I'm up for the sun in the morning. Yeah, they know that we ain't the same. 402, we rap the game. I told them this ain't a game.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Big League Chicago. I'm Rick, here with Jack and Eric, brought to you by Star 6 Media. We've got a hell of a show for y'all today. We're going to start off with some Hawks talk, move into Crosstown Convo, a C-Red segment, give our little Bears predictions right after that. And, of course, we always end it with 4 stars of the week. Fellas, how y'all doing?
Good. You know, I mean, I'm personally good. I think the city of Chicago and their sports. I mean, I know it's been a week since I've been on, but you know, I think everything going on Chicago sports related is pretty despicable and pretty disgusting, to be completely honest. But that's how I feel. Eric, I hope you're not feeling the same way.
I am World Cup deprived. I got so used to watching for 17 straight days, nothing but the amazing sport of soccer, of football, of football, whatever you guys want to call it, name it. And now that I get it like every other day, like I don't like it. I forgot how it was before the World Cup started. And now that I'm going back to normal, I don't like it. And now I'm just only down to like 4 more days.
I know. I was going to say, like, it's crazy how the World Cup goes from like, what is it, 4 games a day to just 2 to just 1 every other day now. I'm sure you're feeling
it literally
like
just goes like that. It actually goes 1, then 2, then 4, 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 then back down to 2, and then it's 2, 2, 2, and then it'll eventually go down to 1, 1, and 1 and 1. I was just like, oh my god.
Eric wants just World Cup soccer injected into his veins at this point.
Yeah, but you know what? It's good to, you know, for a month. It's great. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it, and and I get it every 4 years, so it's kind of like, okay, cool. You know, I can't really complain, but the way how they set it up, man, it sucks.
No, I get you.
He's just not ready to wait another 1,500 something days until the next World Cup. That's the reality.
Well, it's a lot less. Well, yeah, it's a lot less now. Now it's like 3.5 years instead of actually for the summer.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, a little bit different now that. Of course.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all right. At least on the bright side, we'll at least have it closer to us than previous years. So
definitely that. Too bad they don't have any games in Chicago, though. That kind of sucks.
I hate Rahm Emanuel for that one. Like, he shut that down real quick.
Yeah.
For them not having the World Cup here in Chicago, I have to go all the way to what's the closest one? I think it's Kansas City.
Yeah, something like that. Something random like that.
Something random like that.
Yeah.
Houston's got it. LA.
Yeah.
Seattle.
You do have it in Seattle, don't you?
Yeah.
And so lucky you. I'll probably make a trip over there, depending how interesting matchups are over there. I'll probably have a World Cup matchup with Rick in Seattle. I've been to that stadium. That stadium is beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. But all right, let's continue the show. Jack, Hawks talk. How short is this going to be?
Oh, it's gonna be pretty short. I mean, did you guys cover it last week? I for everyone that doesn't know, I coach hockey on the side, and unfortunately, just a little later episode on the. But did we cover Hawks talk last week? I don't know.
We did not get to Hawks talk last week just because I'm not gonna lie, I can't watch the Hawks right now.
I understand that. I think that's totally fair and totally understandable. Quick recap on their New York trip: 1 for 3. Beating the Rangers 5-2 in a very frustrating game, actually, for the Rangers at MSG. Mm-hmm. It was a fun one for the Blackhawks. Big win. We'll always take those. Then they travel over to the other side of the city, get kind of completely beat and dominated by a pretty good Islanders team. And then they travel to Jersey to face the Devils. Devils.
They're good. They're good this year.
And the Devils are on fire. So, you know, I think for anyone that's tuning in to Slot Shot Podcast, we are a hockey podcast, but we're also a Miles Wood podcast. And with that being said, we have our new segment called The Woodshed, pretty much featured on Miles Wood. And there'll be a lot more of content and excitement to come from that. So tune into Slot Shot Podcast, a hockey podcast, also a Miles Wood podcast. John Palaio didn't ride my parlay last night, but has the audacity to dip into the NHL and go on Devil's money line. I love it. Interesting. All right, whatever you got to say. But let's dig into what really matters and what the excitement of today was, and that being the fact that the Canadiens released their World Junior roster today, and 4 out of 5 Blackhawks that were in that prospect camp did make the team. So that is exciting. Funny enough, as you realize, when I say this name, no, I'm not talking about Kirby Dach. I'm talking about Colton Dach, his brother, who the Hawks drafted, I think 2 years ago now. He made the team for forwards. Then Kevin Krasinski, I think is his name, made it for defense. Ethan Del Maestro and Nolan Allen for Blackhawks prospects. I think it was Nolan Allen. And that's kind of the excitement. Made the Canadian junior hockey team. Great tournament. Very fun to watch. Blackhawks fans, basically going to be the most exciting hockey we'll watch all season long, because I can guarantee there'll be some Blackhawks prospects on the U.S. national team as well, if not on some of the European teams. But that's kind of be the highest level of hockey that the franchise or anyone representing the franchise will be playing this year. So tune into World Juniors over the New Year break and holiday. It's always an exciting and fun tournament, usually on NHL Network, which is a little bit of a pain because it's obviously a subscription-based channel. But if you've got it, definitely worth the watch if you're getting a little tired of your New Year's or Christmas holiday bowl games. Turn on some hockey, turn on some World Juniors. U18s going at it for the heart of their country. U21s maybe is what it is, but yeah. So that's I think it was a little longer than I would have expected in terms of Hawks talk. I mean, besides that, they got whooped by Winnipeg on home ice on Friday night. They do have Washington coming to town. Ovechkin, I think, needs like 3 or 4 goals to break the 800 mark. So that's kind of exciting stuff. It will be a little bit of a milestone watch for Blackhawks fans, but I don't think he'll get 3, but maybe. I mean, they suck. Wouldn't put it past them. And then they have Golden Knights in town on Thursday, and then travel to Minnesota for a ESPN Plus hockey night matchup with the Wild. Hawks sit at 7-5-14 for 18 points, and last in the is it the league or just the division? No, second to last in the league. Last in the division.
Last in the division, yeah, that's bad.
1 point out of last place. 1 point out of Mr. Irrelevant C. But no, that's the Chicago Blackhawks for you.
Yeah,
they suck. Didn't miss much in the last week. I'll tell you that.
Hey,
they're just right. Hey, 1 game out of, I think if you looked at the last 20 games they've played, I think they've won maybe 2 and lost 18.
Jesus Christ.
No,
hey,
they haven't played. They've played
26 back.
They've lost 7. Yeah, they've lost. Well, Mrazek gets the start versus Ovechkin. Big help for Ovechkin to try and get the 3 goals, in my opinion. Soderblom looks pretty good. He's a guy that just got peppered. I mean, got peppered versus Winnipeg. A guy who can eat shots, will eat shots. Should be interesting to see what his future holds, as he's, I think, in his 3rd or 2nd year with the organization. Yeah. But the future of goaltending. Drew Commesso over at Boston. Red one. It's Boston University. So that's always the excitement of college hockey and prospect watching, like you were with the Cubs this year, and like we are with the Blackhawks right now. So that's just kind of the reality of it all.
They brought up, didn't they bring back up Reichel as well?
He played a game. I think he was pretty much back in Rockford the same week. So I don't know if his stint lasted for quite some time. Let me. I don't think he's on the active roster right now. Yeah, I'm not seeing it, but I'll have to check in on that.
What's the deal with him? Because he was like a big prospect coming up over the last couple years, right?
He was, he was a high first-round pick, a lot of talent, and kind of stayed overseas for an extra year or 2 before he finally came over. I think it was last year, 2 years ago. Yeah. You kind of hope to see more progression out of him. He's tearing up the AHL, which has been great. The unfortunate has been that you just really haven't seen it translate when he plays with the big club in the NHL. So I think they're really just hoping for him to be able to take that next step, be a proven scorer, a skilled player for this team. I mean, he's not going to be someone that's going to be a huge physical threat, but he is going to be someone that can be dangerous with the puck and could potentially generate some scoring chances for you. And that's what the Hawks are waiting to see out of Reichel so far.
Okay, so just like you said, prospect watching at this point, just trying to get the young guys in, pretty much, right, and see what they got in the young guys, really.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, there's not many bright spots about this. I think I was looking at it, something that was kind of averaging out Seth Jones' contract, like what his playing expectation to what his value is worth right now. So the guy's being paid, and Eric, I'm going to keep you involved here in this one. As a guy that's not going to know a damn thing about it's going to be a fair guess out of Eric, and that's no insult to you, Eric, by the way.
No, you're fine, bro. I don't care.
But so Seth
I
Jones,
like to be honest.
Seth Jones is getting like $9.5 million a year. So what do you think, based on performance, based on what he has done to date, which he has missed some games due to a thumb injury? What do you think his value is currently of what contract wise?
Oh, probably one of the worst ones, simply because how bad the salary cap is with hockey, or how tight it is. It's probably not looking good.
Absolutely. You want to take a stab?
How should I
2.5 mil.
I'm
close.
Thinking,
Close, but no cigar.
Probably 3.
1.5. So it's dropped basically $8 million worth of value is what he has not lived up to. So the Seth Jones contract just continuing to look worse for this Blackhawks team, and something that will potentially hurt them maybe in the future, but hopefully not in terms of the rebuild. But it is going to be a lot of money that they owe him, and teams aren't going to want to even sniff out that deal until things either improve on Seth Jones's performance, or the Hawks end up eating about
75% to 80% of that contract.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's a shit show. It's a grind. The Hawks are out of it this year. That's basically it.
Oof, that's rough. And he's 8 more years of Seth Jones?
Something like that. It was like a 9 or 8
it was
or
a
9-year
deal, right?
I think so 9 for 9.5 or something like that, or 9 for. Yeah, I want to say it was 9 for 9.5.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the side of the Blackhawks right now. Pretty gloomy. I mean, it's a prospect watch at this point, and we're just at this point it's the lottery draft, hoping to get a number 1 or number 2 pick. There's 2 guys in the draft that the Hawks really kind of want,
and they're both going to be playing for Team Canada. Like I said, another reason to watch the World Junior Championship. Both highlighted in the Team Canada's roster that was announced today. Connor Bedard, Adam Fratelli, Sam Pipio. I don't know who.
Piopo.
It is damn hard. It's depressing. That's why I got ESPN Plus. That's why I'm watching McDavid on the background. There's so much talent throughout this league. I mean, shit, we had a guy score 5 goals in a game, 4 in a period last week. You're not going to see that shit in soccer.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard even to do that on a regular basis.
I haven't seen Eric in a while, so I'm just
It's all fun and game. My high for the World Cup is so high, nobody can bring me down. I gotten over the Mexico thing a while back, so I'm back on the high of watching everything else. So I'm all good.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear you've recovered, buddy. I'm glad you've recovered, but it's just it is what it is.
All right.
Hey, if you really want to watch interesting hockey, I think you could just make a trip to Rockford, don't you, to watch the Ice Hogs a little bit, right? Or if you want to watch another team's minor league team, you can always go to Rosemont.
You want some decent product and a cheap beer? I think it's like Wednesday night, $3 beer night at the Allstate Arena for the Wolves. Cheap ass beer.
Wolves? Oh my
God! Don't you get like a hot dog and beer for like $5?
Probably. Wouldn't put it past it. But $3 beer night, Wednesday night. Wolves won the AHL last year. Not affiliated with the Blackhawks, but they did win.
I thought they were. Shit.
No, I think
Rockford,
they're the St. Louis Blues.
I think they are the Blues. I can't remember. I think they are the St. Louis. I think you're right.
Okay.
But
Rockford is the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
See, I know too about hockey, man.
You know the irrelevant shit. You know the irrelevant shit.
Like, no sense. Much crap that I talk about hockey. I know a thing or two, man. Don't.
He said Eric knows the irrelevant. Oh, all right. Well, that was Hawks talk. See, Eric knows a little bit, everybody. So give him some credit.
All right? Look at that. We just spent 15 minutes on the worst team in the city. I mean, that's pretty fucking impressive.
I mean, it's a competition right now between the worst team in the city and the Hawks. But let's move on to Crosstown Convo, talking Sox and Cubs deals, off-season deals. And I'm going to let Jack take it away again because he's got a bit of a rant. I mean, the Sox made a signing, right? You guys did something.
Yeah, sure. Mike Clevenger, 1 year, $12 million, I think. Sure. Couldn't offer 18 and a half qualifying offer to Carlos Rodon 2 years ago, or 2 off seasons ago at this point now. But you could give Mike Clevenger, a guy who was hurt last year and struggled, but has proven numbers with Cleveland. Didn't really do what San Diego brought him in to do, but was a guy that was steady and did pitch in the World Series. But the fact is, this team is it's frustrating. I mean, I think you're trying to give me a heart attack. You're trying to keep my blood pressure high in reality, Rick, because the fact is, people, and I hate to be the negative Nancy, but this team, soccer, get it out of here. It's soccer.
Sorry, man. I've been
if I can't see the chat, if I couldn't see the chat, it's soccer.
It's football if you're Portuguese.
Reeling her back in. No, but the fact is, this team is Jerry's team, Jerry Reinsdorf, and you're seeing it on the hardwood, and you're seeing it in you saw it in guaranteed rate this year. For the quick comparison I'll make, fact is the Bulls had to sign Zach LaVine. It's kind of all they did besides bringing in DeAndre Jordan or whoever the hell the Drummond. That's what it is. Andre Drummond. DeAndre Drummond?
Yep. Andre Drummond.
So, and that was kind of their solution to their holes and their gross look against what they shaped up to versus Milwaukee in the playoffs last year, or whoever the hell it was. And the fact is, the White Sox, who have only signed Mike Clevenger and has kind of just replaced the Johnny Cueto of the rotation, they haven't done diddly shit. And that's because, I don't know. As winter meetings concluded last week, Jerry was in his acceptance speech for, I guess they have a great outreach program throughout some of the communities in Chicago. Yeah. And they've created some talented baseball players for a city that is cold, 6 months out of the year, and baseball isn't as easy to play here. It's talented and exciting stuff for the youth of the city. But the fact is, that's all the Sox were applauded for in the last 6 months, because that's all they've really shown. And Jerry's proven he's not going to spend more than $100 million on a player right now. And as Carlos Rodon on the open market talks of going to the Yankees, talks of him kind of going all over the place. The Sox aren't invested in any of these talks. They were apparently rumored in the chats with the Athletics for Sean Murphy. He ended up going in a 3-team, 9-player trade, sending him to the Braves, sending William Contreras, as the quick Cubs spotters I got to make before I head out, to the same division as his brother, Wilson. Both playing in NL Central now, as he's playing on the Brewers. But that 3-team trade sent Murphy to the Braves. Some talented players going back. Well, not talented, MLB ready players going back to the Athletics, who will still win maybe 60 games, so irrelevant. But the fact is, that's really all the Sox have been talked about, is Mike Clevenger. And they were apparently in the conversation with Sean Murphy. That's it. So in a season that you saw already, your captain, and in your heart and soul of this team, go to Houston, sign with a winning team. This team hasn't done shit. That's Jerry's team. They're not going to do shit as long as Jerry owns this team. Fox fans, it's going to be dark times, and really dark times. Eric, we're not getting into who might be more successful. I know we talked about what. I do still think this is a playoff caliber roster, and don't get me wrong, but I just don't ever see this team getting over the hump, and that's what really frustrates me, because the fact is they did have so much young talent coming up through the pipeline, they've blown it, and now the fact is they're asking to trade Liam Hendricks. That's been the big rumors of late. Eric, I want to tell you to put your hand down, but
yes, Eric in the front row.
What do you got?
Go ahead.
So how can you say the playoff ready-made team if this team missed the playoffs by a lot last season?
Because no one really in the division has gotten that much better. I think all you've seen today was Christian Velasquez was signed by Minnesota. Yeah. Minnesota is going to lose Carlos Correa. He's out of the division potentially. They're still in that conversation, but I don't see him signing long-term in Minnesota. But Cleveland, Jose Ramirez, you got to always respect the talent. I think a healthy roster, a healthy Eloy, a healthy Lou Bob, hopefully a progression of talent from Andrew Vaughn, and the hope, the prayers. Give me a second, Eric, and the fact that the White Sox are relying on a guy who's never touched an MLB diamond. He has touched a professional baseball field. But the fact is they are relying on Oscar Colas to be the outfield solution for this team. He can hit. Eric, I see it. You can put your hand down. We'll take questions in a second. All right, or you can keep it up there. I'll join you up there. Let me finish the damn point. The fact is they're relying on a guy who looks like he has all the talent in the world. A guy that could have been a two-way player coming out of Central. What was it? I think DR, Cuba. I can't remember off the top of my head. But a guy that was talked about potentially playing both ways. He's ending out being an outfielder with a great bat, huge power. I think he jumped 3 divisions in Major League Baseball's minor leagues last year. And they're expecting him to be ready this year and take over one of those outfield positions that they've seemingly needing to fill. And the fact is, there are still some guys they could target. And like Bellinger, for example, like I would have said, if you brought in Bellinger for like $1 million and 12, great deal. But the fact is that you're paying him $18 million. And, so I don't know. I want to finish up on the White Sox because I have actually a few quick thoughts about the Cubs and what is the scary shit show of what I think is happening in their free agency period right now. But the fact is the White Sox are run by Jerry. It's a Jerry organization. It's a Jerry tank. He's lucky he walked into a Michael Jordan. I'll say all the hot takes you want. The fact is, if Jerry didn't have Michael Jordan, he'd be the worst owner in sports history, at least in American sports history. And that is a fact. He sucks. It's awful. We need the protest. And I don't know. Something needs to change dramatically because this team's making money off the field. But the fact is they're not investing into their ball club, and there's no reason to support it. There's no reason to buy season tickets. Buy your games one at a time. Prices are going to go right back down like they were all those
$2 bleacher seats. $2 bleacher seats, baby.
$2, damn. And yet they still can't sell out the stadium. Damn, that's crazy.
Hey, still sounds louder than Wrigley Field. I guarantee you that.
And it's still more of a fun environment than Wrigley. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, it's the White Sox. Whatever.
Eric in the front.
You had your hand raised. Again, I get it. You're right. You're right about Reinsdorf. I agree with you on that part. Right? He walked in on Michael. He got lucky in 2005 when the team won it all in 2005, right? But since he's been the owner of both teams, they've both been mediocre at best. I think we've seen with the Chicago Bulls under Reinsdorf what it was after Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah.
And again, they got lucky with getting even Derrick Rose years back. Even though I've always said they wouldn't have won a championship with Derrick Rose on this roster anyways if he was healthy.
Agree.
So, regardless, yes, the Bulls and the White Sox, I've always said they do everything well for the city of Chicago with the Cubs Sox camp that they have.
Yeah,
it's fine, Danny. That's great. All in good noise. Product on both court and field, they both suck. They've both been mediocre at best. Maybe even worse than mediocre. At least for sure, the Chicago White Sox have been worse than mediocre, whatever you want to call it. The Bulls, okay, but they're in the same boat too as well. So, I mean, there's a lot more problems. I think even last year they put their money on bullpen. Bullpen wasn't great last year. They struggle hitting, they struggle. They have no left-handed hitting power whatsoever, or left-handed hitting period. There's legit no lefty hitter that just only swings from the left side. You got a bunch of switch hitters. Pitching is still kind of suspect at the best, at least definitely the back end. There's holes, man. There's holes at third. There's holes in second. There's now a big hole in first. There's a hole, I think, what is it, right field? Eloy, what you going to do with him? You can say health all you want. You can scream health all you want. It's still the same problems as last year. So it's kind of
I completely agree with you. I don't disagree with you at all. I think their strongest point. The only thing I'll disagree with you on what you're saying there as I cut you off, so I'm sorry for that. That was rude. But I think their strongest point is pitching, and I think you're going to see a better year from Giolito. He's seeming to be finding a little bit of a different release point, and he's also just kind of removing his head from baseball. I think Lance Lynn will be a little bit better. He did come into the season hurt. He's coming in healthy. Michael Kopech, first real full season as a starter. Gotta love it. Saw some promising stuff. Clevenger will come in as that, that fourth, fifth, and then Cease will always be your ace. Is that 5?
I think that's 5.
That was 5.
I think that's
Clevenger,
5,
Lynn, Kopech, Giolito.
Yeah, I think that's 5.
And
regardless,
your Cy Young candidate. Your Cy Young candidate.
Cease, yeah, that's 5.
Cease, yeah.
Regardless, you still have question marks more at the back end than anything.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Natalia.
Sorry, I gotta say the Sox environment is
You're
better.
absolutely spot on. You're absolutely spot on.
They have way better food and drinks too. Food? I don't know. I'll tell you this.
I'll take the food.
I'll say this.
Food's way better.
Yeah,
way better. No question about it. Expensive as hell,
call me this guy. Call me this guy, and I could care less, right? You can call me this guy for whatever. I don't really care.
I'm calling you this.
But if my ticket was free to go see a Cubs Sox game at Comiskey or US Cellular or whatever you want to call it, guaranteed no seats in the butt stadium, whatever you want to call it. If the ticket was free, I still wouldn't go to that stadium.
Yeah, I'd rather go to Wrigley.
I'll be that guy.
I'd rather go to Wrigley.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'd rather go to Wrigley.
Fine.
And then get drunk and then go to the bars right across the street, try to hit a home run at Sluggers and then fall down and bust my shit. I'd rather be that guy.
That's fine. That's why you're a Cubs fan and that's why I'm a Sox fan. I mean,
the only thing I will drive though, if I do somehow, some way miraculously go to that stadium, is going a little trip up north and go to Buffalo Wings and Rings, and then I'll just call it a day. That's it.
There you go.
That's just me though. I
mean, true. I would 100% prefer Wrigley. But I will say in the stadium, the food is better at the G Spot. 100%. I think it's way better. The beer selection is probably better. I mean, I don't really care. The food to me is so much better at the G Spot for me. But let's move on to the Cubs moves. The Cubs made a couple big moves. Go ahead, Jack.
Sorry. Break down the moves, and then I'm going to throw you a question, and I got to run.
Okay.
Leave you two with a question. I want to tune in. I'll try and tune in on the comments to continue.
Cool.
But yeah, break down their moves. Sorry.
So the Cubs made 2 big moves. The biggest one being Cody Bellinger agreeing to a 1-year, $17.5 million deal. Former 2019 MVP. He had batted .305, 406, 629 with 47 homers, 115 RBIs, and 15 stolen bases that year. And then the Cubs added depth at pitching with Tylon, agreed to a 4-year, $68 million deal. He's coming off one of his better seasons in the league, 14-5 with a 3.91 ERA, 151 strikeouts in 171 and 1/3 innings. So, Jack, what were you gonna throw at me with these guys?
So there's your signings. The 2 things, 2 points I'm going to make here. And as I think Eric and I have debated, or one of the guys from the group and I have debated, was you could have spent the same money you did spend on Bellinger and Talion to keep Contreras and Rizzo as a Cub. I still think those would have put you in better positions than what Bellinger and Talion will offer to you guys. Talion is a great number 3, but that's it. And I don't think you can expect him to be a number 2. I don't think you can expect him to be a number 1. Obviously, I don't think they expect him to be a number 1. They tossed him a lot of money for a few years. Bellinger, you're taking a risk. As I said before we hopped on the show, you give him $12 million for 1 year. I like that deal. It's a prove-it deal. And that's kind of what his case is right now, because the fact
that's what he wanted.
He didn't want to sign a multi-year deal. That is what's been known out there. So my only point on that is you could have kept Rizzo. You could have kept Contreras to do what they have done now. All right. So that's a what if. That doesn't matter. Next question I'll ask you is, and what I've been reading is Jed Hoyer terrified of what the position the Cubs found themselves in after 2016-17, and the fact that they didn't have the money to keep the 3 of them, or they didn't think they had the money to keep the 3 of them. They just don't operate the way like they think they have the money to keep the 3 of them.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I think it sounds like he is pretty terrified that same similar situation will happen again, and he doesn't want to handicap himself for the future. So it sounds like things are stalling on the Dansby Swansea front. And yes, the guy just got married to Chicago Red Stars forward. I can't
Nice.
remember her name, but she plays for the Red Stars. Great player on the national team, I think, as well.
Nice.
So that helps for your Cubs fans. You know, you want to throw those rumors out there. Oh, he's married to blah blah blah.
It does.
You know, it's still when the Dodgers are doing the talking versus the Cubs. I like the Dodgers, and that's kind of the sweepstakes right now are Cubs, Dodgers, and potentially one other suitor. But you know, I don't know what's going to happen on the Dansby Swanson's front. And then you talk about Correa, that has kind of quieted. You thought they were going to be big players on Correa. We'll see. You know, he hasn't signed yet, but the fact is, it doesn't look. It's looking as the days are going by and the free agent big names are kind of coming off the market. It looks more and more like this Cubs team isn't going to make more moves. And that's because they look like they're scared of putting themselves in that environment of financial misery, which the Sox just won't do. So I love it. I'm glad you have a question. I'll try and catch it on my phone on YouTube. I got to run, Eric. But both of you guys have a great rest of your episode. Appreciated only football during Monday night or Sunday night football as I sweated a playoff berth for fantasy football. Bears got who this week?
Bears got Eagles.
Oh, I don't even need to fucking put a projection in. We'll just save our time on that one.
Make sure you send me one of the 4 stars of the week, though. Make sure you text me that for the end of the show.
Put a show. I'll put that in there. Big him shirt to add to the collection.
Boys,
have a good one. I will talk to you later.
See you, dude.
All right, Jack. Take it easy.
All right, Eric. What were you going to say on that front?
All right. So on that front, all right. So the difference between then in 2016, 2017, 2015, and the difference between now, not only it's just a different GM doing the moves, right? But he's right.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Cubs were afraid to splash in the money because of the prove it. Yeah, they won the World Series, they did all that. But remember, they were still renovating Wrigley Field. And I know you're out there in Washington, right? And I normally go to like 2 to 3 Cubs games, a year, sometimes 4. But last year, I only went to home opener. That's the only game I went. I knew this team was going to suck. I didn't want to spend my money on them because they didn't do anything about it. And Wrigley Field is not Wrigley Field. It looks more like Wrigley Corporation.
Yeah.
So all the money that they have gotten, even from Marquee, before Marquee, everything that they received from winning, the World Series in 2016, and even the income even after that, they use that money to renovate the stadium. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the only reason why most of that money, if not all of that money, didn't go to Chris Bryant, didn't go to Anthony Rizzo, didn't go to Javi Baez, Kyle Schwarber, now Wilson Contreras per se right now at the moment, right? Mm-hmm. But also you got to remember this. And I think one of my buddies, he shared this post a while back. Those same players, Javi Baez's, the Anthony Rizzo's, the Chris Bryant's, they took less money to play for the teams that they're currently in right now. Mm-hmm. The difference is I think the one that was a bigger gap was Anthony Rizzo, and I think his was like $7 million more with the Cubs than what the Yankees first
Yankees. Yeah.
Chris Bryant was like $4 to $5 million, and I think Javi Baez. I may be wrong. The math may be wrong, but it was the Cubs were more. Mm-hmm. The years were less, but the money was more.
Yeah. So
I'll say that in that part, as you guys hear my baby screaming in the background right now, yelling and crying at the moment. But I do agree. The Wilson Contreras, Anthony Rizzo, with the money that they got, Bellinger and Tyon, sure. Mm-hmm. But even with that being said, I think this time around it just feels different simply because Jed wants to put his own wrinkle to it.
Yep.
And I think he still has Wilson Contreras in the background as his own kind of still a Theo Epstein stench kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's his piece. Yeah, 100%. Right.
So that's the only difference that I get from back then to now, right? Now that Wrigley Corporation is built, now that they have the bars literally in the restaurants, literally right outside the stadium, when I went then my only time this year going to Wrigley, like it just looks completely different. And now they have that little lot that they have right there where you can sit and watch the games from the outside. Where you can do this and where you can do that, where you can have fun. Hell, even right now, at Wrigley Field. I might go sometime in the next couple of days or a couple of weeks or something, or a week or right before Christmas. But they have like a winter fest going inside Wrigley Field.
I heard.
So it's kind of like the money is there. You
Mm-hmm.
can't say that it's not.
Yep.
The fact of them, but I do agree with Jack that they are terrified to spend that money, and it's not because it's a substantial amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that you are stuck with this player for this period amount of time. Now you could do a lot less for Swansea, whatever you want it. But we all know it's Carlos Correa. He's only 27, but we have seen these contracts kind of not work out. And it's not like Carlos Correa is 25, 24, 25. He's 27, so it's kind of like you get out of those 11 years, you get what?
Five, maybe six years
maybe?
of production. Yeah,
depending on catastrophic injury, like if he has one or not, it just depends. But it's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating that the Cubs haven't made that move. I'd rather have done the 2-for-1, the Bogarts and Swansea instead of the Carlos Correa. I think for the price of one, I think that would probably have been the smartest route to go. I think that would have probably been a lot more helpful for your team to take the next step. But at the same time, the talent level between the 2 and the 1 is a substantial amount, depending if Carlos Correa stays healthy.
Yeah, I would love Correa. I wouldn't mind Swanson. Obviously, Xander Bogaerts too, and who was it? Trey Turner too, right? Like those were the guys really that they're going after. I'll kind of talk about the whole like 6 years of production out of 11-year contract, which is what the market is now apparently for shortstop, second baseman, whatever it is. What I don't. So out of the 6 years, let's say out of the 6 years of production out of that 11-year contract, right? The last 4 or 5 years, it's more like a, hey, you've been a part of the organization for so long. We're kind of going to give you your right off into the sunset type of deal. If in those 6 years, you can't put pieces around Correa that during his productive years, you're going to go into the playoffs, make a deep run, possibly another World Series. I feel like this is what a lot of fans don't understand. You get a guy like Correa, yeah, sure, he's going to make a splash in the offseason, and it makes a difference. But what happened with the Twins last year? They didn't do anything. They just signed Correa, right? Like they just signed them. They're like, oh, watch out for the Twins. The Sox are good, but watch out for the Twins. Neither of them ended up making the playoffs because that division was so bad. Now the pieces around the Cubs, and I mean, you got Marcus Stroman. They just signed Talon. They've got what's his name? Kyle Hendricks there still, right? And they've got some young up and comers in the pitching department. They've got a good outfield with Suzuki and Bellinger and Happ if he replicates the season he had last year, right? You've got some pieces there and you've got a chance. But if we're just going to kind of go in the same circle almost with like, maybe we don't want to pay this guy. And like Jack said, these, Hoyer's operating like they don't have the money, like they're fucking broke or something, something like that.
Biblical losses. Remember that term. Always remember. Don't forget that. Biblical losses.
Biblical, like it's insane what happened, right? But if it's just going to be the same operation like that, then what's the point of signing a big name? I would want a big name because I feel like with the young talent that we saw last year with the Cubs come up and make noise and like, just make their mark on the team. Morel, for instance, and Suzuki, even before he got hurt, right? He was hitting really well. These guys were hitting really well as rookies, right? And so you can kind of bring those guys up, have a Correa, mentor them, have a Happ, have a Bellinger, former MVP, right? Play for his contract. You guys, the Cubs play really well. You never know, right? Bellinger now might want to play with superstar in Correa. And then he re-signs with the Cubs. It's going to be for a large contract and probably for like a 10-year type of deal or something like that he wants. Maybe a little less because he is an outfielder.
Less with the years and money.
But he is also 27 too.
This is true. This is
true. So it might be similar, if not maybe a few less years, like you said. I think like you were saying earlier about Jed Hoyer wanting to make his own mark on this team. That's 100% correct. What Theo Epstein did from 2009, 2010, right around that year when he came in with the Cubs.
Yep.
It was remarkable what he did. He brought in players that nobody knew, a Jake Arrieta, for example, a player that a player that people like had given up on, made him a Cy Young winner, a World Series winner, brought in John Lester, brought in
John Lackey,
Lackey, right? For that World Series one. That was
David
insane.
Ross.
David Ross brings in so many of these guys. And not only that, he brings in those veterans for pitching because they can't develop pitching to save their lives, but brings up all these guys in the infield, the Chris Bryant and Rizzo that he got in a trade from the Padres, from Hoyer, by the way. So they were boys. And then brings up Baez. Even when he made the trade with the Athletics for
Addison Russell,
right? Like these are things that he saw, and it created a great the weapons that you could bring into this team to make a superstar like a John Lester or John Lackey be like, yeah, I actually believe in this team. Let me join it and let's create something, right? Even a Dexter Fowler, the year after 2015 when he came back, he saw that. He's like, yeah, I see the young stars. This team has a really good chance. I can see that this year, but I don't think it's like it's the guys that we have now are superstars by any means in this coming year, 2023.
No, I think that only happens if they do sign Correa. And even then, so that's still a stretch. Bringing in Correa may not help you win now per se, like win whatever, maybe contend wild card, but that's still a big stretch because I still feel like I mean they still need a first baseman. Third baseman. I mean, we have David Bodie, but can he stay? Is it still the same David Bodie that we first saw when he first came up? And can he stay healthy? I mean, catcher. I know they had talks with who was the catcher that they were affiliated with?
Was it Vasquez, the guy who just signed?
Was it Vasquez? Yes,
I think so.
And then I think Mancini at first, and I think those were the recent rumors that were from the Cubs. But it's kind of like, okay. So I mean, Nico performed well last year to at least guarantee a spot in the starting lineup, right? Whether if it's at short, whether if it's at second, wherever the case may be, right? But Nico deserves that shot, right? I know John last year he was upset at the trade that the White Sox did last year 2 years ago for Craig Kimbrell, simply because we got what's his name Nick Madrigal, right? Nicky Two Strikes, I guess
Nicky
what they like call it, and John fell in love with him. But again, he can't stay healthy.
He can't. He cannot.
So
he's trash, man. He's trash.
It's that way. It's like if it's not Correa, I think the tires go a lot more quicker if it's Correa than if it is Swanson. If it's Swanson, I think you're on cruise control where you still kind of have time to put in these places. And if this team put together with Swanson and everybody else around, and if it's a wild card contending team, you can see the Cubs being buyers, at the market, whether if they need that pitching, but they still have holes in this team. But it's just like we're gonna go from a nice casual cruise on cruise control on Lakeshore Drive with Swansea instead of let's go in a race and a Daytona 500 with Correa. Like that's two different signings. Even though they're going to be sort of similar, not sort of similar in money amount and or years, but it's like a different level of talent and skills. I mean, if somehow someone you could still pull off Swanson and Correa, like how they thought there was going to be Bogarts and Swanson, then okay, cool.
Yeah.
But it's like if you get Correa, you have at least at the minimum 2 years to build a World Series team.
Yeah, because he'll and like you're saying, Correa is a much bigger name than a Swanson, and he's going to attract a lot more players,
younger.
Yeah, and even like you said, you have 2 years to build a roster. You have 2 years to see if Christopher Morel and a Suzuki play out. If not, all right, let's dip into free agency. Let's try to bring somebody else up. Picor Armstrong looks good as a prospect that might come up and try to take over an outfield spot. Maybe if Ian Happ, gets traded at the deadline this time or doesn't and gets, released or whatever, just goes into free agency. Correa does attract the bigger name, and it's almost like how we were talking about the Bulls when they signed Zach. It's like, oh, let's show players that we're going to pay players so they come to our team. This works a little bit differently, obviously, because Correa is just a bigger name, and it's just like he's going to sign for a lot more years and be consistent in that team. But I agree. You know, I would rather sign Correa than Swanson. And these moves that they made, you know, Tylon or however you
It's
pronounce
Tylon,
his name,
yeah.
Tylon.
Yeah.
He's, you know, just kind of getting back to this. He's a middle a rotation guy, a 3, a 4. You know, a 3 at his best, a 4 at his worst. I think maybe a 5 if he's really having an off year. 68 million for 4 years, though. I don't know. I feel like I don't know what the market is for pitchers, but for a third, you know, starting pitcher, I don't know. That seems like a lot for 4 years.
Let me, excuse me. I texted my brother the day that they signed him. Right? My brother's a Yankees fan, so if there was anybody that I would trust it, I would, you know, whoever would have said anything was probably my brother.
Yeah.
And just
there you go.
Where is he? It's right here.
Mm-hmm.
So I texted him literally on Wednesday. I was like, all right, man, give me the scoop on Tyon. What did we just get? Obviously, he told me he started with the Pirates. He had his best year last year with the Yankees, going 14-5. And you know, he told me his ERA was a little flirting with 4. He started off slow, but he's good. He's like he figured that they were going to resign him to anchor the rotation. So in other words, I think the same thing, be the second, third best, you know, starter on that squad, right? So I was like, okay, cool. I mean, I was like, all right, as long as he can provide. Obviously, Hendrick is going to be your ace, even though he doesn't have ace-like stuff. You still have Stroman on your roster. You bring Tyon as your third starter. And yeah, I mean, it's a decent team, or a decent rotation enough to see and to prove on what do you have and what you need if and when you make these signings. If these come true, what are you going to be at by the trade deadline? Are you going to trade Bellinger? Are you going to keep him? Are you going to add to the squad? Yeah. What are you going to do? And I think that's the reason why, like, I feel like what terrifies me a little bit is the fact that this is how we're going to stay and start for the year and not get anything else.
If no other moves are made, big name type of moves, then because all I've been hearing is, oh yeah, the Ricketts said, oh yeah, open the checkbook for this offseason. Do it 100%. Jed Hoyer's got a blank check for whoever he wants to sign. Like, and don't get me wrong, Bellinger, former MVP, Tyon, okay, like a 3 starter to solidify the rotation, because a lot of guys were hurt last year on the rotation, and we were bringing in like an Adrian Sampson. We had a Adbert Alzolay come in.
Had Keegan
Thompson, Mills, Alec Mills,
Steele.
Like, we had just a ton of guys, and that's kind of what the pros are with adding a Tyon, right? Like, adds depth. He eats a lot of innings as a pitcher. You know, he had his best. He's coming off his best year, and especially in a really tough AL East, in a tough AL, really, just in general. You know, pitching against teams like that, those are pros. But I mean, the cons are 31 years old, 68 mil. What is he taking a spot from, like an Alzolay? Is he taking a spot from a Keegan Thompson, from someone who can maybe, like, not only is on the youth side, but can also try to prove themselves this year?
I honestly think like that signing actually helps them a little bit more than anything, because it relieves the stress of them trying to be, you know, the number 2, number 3 starter, right? I think you make them fight for the roster spot of being at the number 3, just in case if Tyon, let's say Tyon pitches well, but Keegan Thompson is better. Then you put, you know, and because Thompson is your guy from your organization, you bump him up, you know, and depend on what you do with Stroman. What if Stroman struggles? Then you move up to people who are having the good year, right? It's stuff like that where you're right. Depth happens, and it's good to have pitching depth. And obviously last year they proved themselves. Hell, they were like the 4th or 5th best team after the All-Star break last year, the Chicago Cubs. So it's kind of like it's kind of like you're just adding to the team that was one of the best teams in the second half, even though their record didn't show because they had a horrible first half of the season.
Yeah. And that's the promising part too, right? Like how well their second half was. And a lot of guys did kind of return too, so that did help. So yeah, I mean, those are kind of the pros and cons that I saw with Tyon. With Bellinger, right? Cubs need left-handed hitting. Bellinger, again, the pros, 27 years old, left-handed hitting, a 1-year deal, can be flipped at the deadline, or you can just go into free agency the following year. And again, former MVP. Those are the pros. Cons, I mean, a $17.5 million deal, and his struggles at the plate over the last 2 years, almost 3 years, really. It's kind of just worrying, right? Like,
yeah, it's a prove it year for him.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he was searching for. So, again, like what that's going to probably be one of the more interesting things that happens this next season with the Cubs with Bellinger, former MVP. Do we, if he is producing at the plate, if he's continuously playing at a Gold Glove level like he has been his entire career, will they re-sign him? Will they let him play out the entire year? And I guess it all depends on where they're at, right, in the standings and how well they're playing. Can they make a wild card? Can they win the division? Do they trade him or not? And then who else do we have on the team? Do we have a Correa? Do we have a Swanson? Like, are we going to get somebody else? Should we actually resign Bellinger? Like, there's a lot of things that go into this. But again, a 1-year deal makes it a little bit better. It seems to me like it's somewhat of a win-win because you can flip him at the trade deadline for, someone who needs outfield depth. And if Bellinger is producing, like I said, why not get a couple more guys? Maybe get some MLB ready guys, for Bellinger.
Yeah, at least ready made. I mean, you could at least get some type of young pitching, in the back end, maybe a first baseman, depending what you do, because the Cubs still need to make moves, man. And although Correa is the biggest fish, you still need a first baseman, you still need a catcher. You lost Wilson. I mean, I know they had what's his name from last year that they signed. Damn it, who was it that they signed last year?
During the trade deadline or before the
off
season? I'm not sure.
Yan Gomes. Wasn't it Yan Gomes?
Yan Gomes, the catcher. Gomes? Yeah, Yan Gomes. Yeah.
So, like, I know that they had him thinking that they were going to trade Wilson at the trade deadline, and they didn't. I mean, they still have a catcher, and he signed a 2-year deal. But
yeah,
again, it's like you still need. You can do better than a Yan Gomes, right?
Yeah,
it's just
100%.
It's just manly. At first, like you thought the way how the Cubs started, you thought that the bigger fishes were going to fry, and a lot of bigger fishes were going to come through, and especially getting Cody Bellinger, it was a sign to come that the Cubs were going to make big moves this offseason. And after that, it was kind of like Mexico in the World Cup, very deflating.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, and it's nice to see how they finished the year last year and under Grandpa Rossi too, right? Like, I like seeing him as manager. I don't know if he like really moves like needles or anything, like people want to come play for David Ross or anything, but he's had success in his couple of years so far as a manager. I mean, he's gone to the playoffs with them. It was that terrible COVID year when they lost against the Marlins and they couldn't score a run. Right. But he's had some successful seasons, and he had the season where they were winning. They looked like they were on the path to the playoffs, and then Jed Hoyer was like, "Yeah, get rid of Bryant, get rid of Rizzo, get rid of Baez." So what do you leave Ross with? A depleted team. Yeah, a bunch of backups, and the only guys left from a World Series championship were Hendricks and Wilson, right? And then you go into last year, it's just nobody.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. But the one thing you would say about David Ross is that these players, the players that they got, even the young, from the veterans to the young cats, they listen, they look, and it looks like he has a grip of the players that he has right now. So if there's anything about David Ross, and there's a reason why they were the 4th or 5th best team in the major leagues after the All-Star break last year, is because Grandpa Rossi put them to play in a no-nonsense type of nature, and it worked. They prevailed. They were one of the better teams in the second half. Like I said, it was just a very slow start in the first that just put them in the situation where they weren't even competing anymore. Just imagine if they had a little better record in the second half, how things would have been different. But with no talent, with no pitching, with nothing like that, to have that record in the second half of after the All-Star break, that's a lot of credit. Give a lot of credit to David Ross on that part.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, bringing the guys up, kind of coaching them up, like you said, they play for him, and it's just exciting to see the young guys come up too. That's what I'm excited most to see, and that's kind of what really just like made me tune into Cubs games last year. Was like, hey, well, not only is Wilson still on the team, but we got Marcus Stroman is actually pitching well. Who's this guy, Keegan Thompson?
Yeah.
Who's this guy? What's his
Was it
name?
Justin Steele? I think that was his name.
Steele. The other guy that came in, he was a rookie. I forget. Like other than Morel, and let's not forget Suzuki, right? Like our big Japanese signing. So we can't remember. We can't forget those guys. But it's gonna be. I don't know. For me, it'll be a little more disappointing if they don't make another signing, another big name signing. You would say the same thing then?
No, hell yeah, 100%, 110%. Especially how you started. Just imagine how you started. It's like how you started. It's not how you start. It's how you finish. And the way that you started off with your right foot, went a fast pace, like you had a quick step on the lead in the race for anything, and then you just kind of towards the end of the finish line, you lost your lead and you fell way back behind than how you started. So it's kind of that's the way how I look at it. Like they need the signing. They do.
Yeah, no, same. Yeah, no, 100%. Hopefully they get another one. One more thing on the Cubs front, kind of the Cubs front. Wilson Contreras signs with the Cardinals.
It is so weird.
It is, yeah, and that just kind of like broke my heart. I was a little mad, not gonna lie. Like any other team, you could have signed with literally any. I would have preferred him to go to the South Side. I couldn't care less. I honestly would have preferred for him to go to the South Side than the Cardinals. Because then we have to see him in that Cardinals uniform 15 times a year.
No, I know. But to be honest, like it's weird, but I rather have him in any other uniform except for the White Sox, to be honest with you.
No way, you're insane. Because then they got to meet him in London. They got to meet him in London too. They have a London series.
That's fine. It's London. Whoopity doo.
To
me, again, I rather have him. There's 28 other teams that he could sign, with, and as long as it's not, well, technically 29. But as long as it's not on the South Side, I can care less. Like I really don't care. Wilson deserved he deserved better. He didn't. Rizzo deserved better. He didn't. Baez deserved better. He didn't. Bryant deserved better. He deserved way more better than anybody else put together. It's like in the list it goes Bryant, Rizzo, Baez, and everybody else. But Wilson is up there. He deserved better. The way he got treated is just again maybe the way that they treated. Maybe the way that they treated the players that won them the World Series is the reason why Correa and or Swansea still hasn't been on this team yet. You know what I mean? It's just, even though the money may be there, players see a lot of things too as well on how an organization is ran. So it's telling on why they're still not here on this team, but it's not that hard to see why, simply because how they treated the stars, the team, the players that we as Cubs fans will never forget, in the Biases, the Rizzos, the Bryants, the Contreras, and all that stuff. There's a reason why, I believe that's one of them too. Because imagine, like, what if that's another story for another podcast if everything happens. What I was about to say.
and that's kind of what I'm like afraid of, right? Because you have your Dodgers, you got your Giants and your Padres now, right? Like those really the big teams in the NL, even the Cardinals, right? Like they got some big names there, and your Mets, of course. But I don't want I don't want the Cubs to be one of those. Hey, let me sign a quick contract here, show them they could play in a big market, and then go sign for LA, go sign for New York. Maybe go for a big winner like Houston, for example, right? That's what I don't want for the Cubs. I don't want it to be a pit stop for like, hey, showing the league that you're good again and getting a long-term contract, because then it's just like, all right, well, what are the Cubs doing? And we have money. Like you said, it's Wrigley Corporation there now. They have the money. They know they do. The Ricketts have the money. Jed Hoyer, just spend the money. Like just spend the money now. That's all you got to do.
Maybe, just maybe. I mean, anything that the Ricketts say, I take it with a grain of salt. It's mainly more like, prove it to me that you really mean that, you really want to spend the money, right?
Yeah.
Because, after I heard biblical losses, it's just after that, like, I don't trust the Ricketts any damn bit, It's like, if you tell me to trust the corruption of the Mexicana Federation, and the Chicago Cubs and the Ricketts, I'll have more faith in the Federación Mexicana to turn around the Selección Mexicana than I do Tom Ricketts of the Cubs, and that is saying a lot because
that
of
is saying a lot.
that's going on with Football Mexico, man.
Hey, Jed Hoyer, if you're listening, that is saying a lot.
No, not Jed, not Jed. Ricketts, Tom
Ricketts, yeah,
Ricketts.
yeah, Tom Ricketts especially, yeah, that is definitely saying a lot. So, yeah, I mean that's kind of it. You know, the Cubs make a couple moves, the Sox make one move. Jack did not like it, but we already know what's kind of going on the South side. But let's move on to another team that is owned by the guy who owns the guys on the South side, the Bulls, the Sea Red segment. They have gone 2-1 since we last had Big League Chicago on. They went on to beat the Wizards 115 and 111. They destroyed the Mavericks 144 to 115. Now that was without Luka. So we do have to put that out there just for everyone to know. But they did lose to the Hawks just recently, 123 to 122 in overtime. Starting with the Wizards game, 115 to 111. The Wizards lost 4 in a row after that loss to the Bulls. DeMar put in 27 points, 15 of them coming in the fourth quarter. Vooch had 25 and 11, and Zach added 25 points. Now, of course, this is another game that they were without their star player, Bradley Beal. So I mean, take it what you want, but I mean, you play the teams on the schedule that you got to play, right? So if they win, it's a win. And then P. Will, of course, added 11 points as a starter. Then they go on to beat the Mavs again without Luka, 144 to 115. And this was a game that the ball movement, like everyone touched the ball. Everyone was like in double figures. DeMar scored 28. Vooch had 20. Even Ayo had a good game, 17. Zach and like a bunch of other guys had 16 points. They get their second win in a row. They shot a season high 62% from the field. But yeah, everyone was scoring in this. And I feel like that's kind of what we were talking about last episode, where it was like, they need to do more of this. And you see what happens when they do that, right? Like, the Mavs were without their one-star player, but I mean, it's a team game, right? So I mean, you kind of got to take that into account. But then they go lose at home, or I think at Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken.
It was at Atlanta.
At Atlanta against the Hawks. This was kind of a crushing defeat in OT by AJ Griffin. Scored a buzzer beater in like the last.
You just threw it up
5.
there and it just went
in.
That was just.
Isn't that insane? Like the last 0.5 seconds.
It's crazy.
And this was after DeMar had a really good game, 34 points, 13 rebounds. Zach had 21, Vooch 13 and 8. Ayo was hurt in this game, did not return. But yeah, that was definitely a heartbreaker. What do you make of like the Bulls though? Taking a win against the Wizards and the Mavs, losing to the Hawks, but I mean that was just kind of on some dumb luck.
So I rather talk about the last two games than the first one, right? Obviously, they beat the Wizards, but I think the Wizards game was just an ugly game to watch from back and forth because they both couldn't find their offensive struggles up until the very end, right? But the last one, like you said, the ball movement against the Mavericks was what we wanted to see, and they also did the same thing a little bit, or they showed more of it too as well in the Hawks game. And that's what, like you said, that's what we kind of needed to see and wanted to see too as well. The fact that we needed the Bulls to be more of a team-oriented game because there is no lockdown superstar in this team whatsoever. And yes, you're right. It feels like a crushing. It feels like it's almost the same old Bulls that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. Then after losing to the Hawks like they did, what was it, yesterday? It just feels like it's the same old Bulls, but this time it had a little bit of a wrinkle. It just a little bit more team game, team aggressive. Everybody's putting their hands on the ball, scoring a little bit more. Even though the score discrepancies in the Atlanta game was a little bit different than the ones in the Mavs, but the Mavs don't play defense, and anything that's the only reason why. And the Bulls had their game on what was it, Saturday, scoring 144.
Yep.
The same thing with Atlanta. I think Atlanta just doesn't look like that team that was that darling Cinderella, beautiful team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals a couple years back. You can tell it's a different Atlanta team, and they just didn't look right. And it had to take like a fluke, last minute buzzer beater in order for the Bulls to win after DeMar DeRozan gets fouled shooting the three and making all three free throws. So I'm still at how I am at a couple of times,
Mhm.
but I am a little bit more intrigued and excited if the Bulls keep playing like the way that they have been with the team ball offensively. They just defensively it's just the same old problems, man. They can't stop a feather coming into
Yeah.
the lane at all, bro.
And you see that, right? Like giving up points like 111, 115 and 123, right? And you take away that really lucky shot there in OT, and the Bulls are on a 3-game win streak, right? And they're going against the Knicks, and
Yep.
then I believe it's the Knicks, and then at Minnesota. So they've got the Knicks twice at home, and then they go into Minnesota, take on the Timberwolves. This could be a 3-game win streak, like I said. Going against the Knicks, who I don't think have been very good this year. I think they're kind of like they've also kind of lost a little bit of their juice from last year when like the Bulls and them were actually like, oh man, watch out for them, right? So what is interesting though, and it's not only the fact that the Bulls are playing in a way a lot, and the defense is still not there, like you said. How well Vooch is playing early. Vooch has been playing very, very well. There have been games where he has taken over, where he has been like, just, throw me the ball. I'm going to shoot a few threes. We're going to get back in this. Let me get my 15, 16 rebounds and my, 17, 18 points, and we can actually make this a game, right? Given that information, we know we're not going to give up DeMar. We know we're probably on the side of keeping Zach. Is Vooch someone who at the trade deadline, someone you kind of put on the table as AK?
I love where you're going with this. I
Mm-hmm.
really, really do. And not only just Vooch, right? I think everybody's up for grabs into consideration. Let's just say if they're all playing hot basketball at that time, right? You do
Yeah.
really have to make that business decision on who you're going to give up for talent and whatnot. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said last week, what was the trades that I said last week? Like, Vooch and
Yeah.
DeMar going to LA and we get Russell and all this, the
Yeah.
Zach
Yeah.
going to New York for Obi Toppin and RJ Barrett and I forgot
All
who else.
these trades. Yeah.
Like all those trades and all those draft picks, and they look nice. I'm not gonna lie, they
Mm-hmm.
really really do. But at the same time, it's kind of like, what do you do? Like, let's just say the Bulls somehow, some way from now until Christmas, they are, how many games do they play? What, 8
From now
games,
until
9 games, or something like that?
something like
Um,
that. Yeah.
let's just say the Bulls go 7-2,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it changes.
Six
It
games.
changes
Six
their.
games.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, now you're approaching Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
You're approaching the new year. You're about to go. You go 7-2. You're 18-17, and depending on everything else, 18-17 so far makes you go up to like the fourth, fifth, sixth seed, depending on how the other teams, you know, play at that time.
End up. Yeah.
And it's just it's a very tough decision because they got. I mean, obviously in January, Zach can be offered up to trade if
Mm-hmm.
they want to,
Mm-hmm.
right? As much as I want to, and as much crap as I talk about them with this contract and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just being in that position, it kind of sucks. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It sucks because it's like either you look at it, you build this team from what you have from the previous regime, and you kind of put your own little tweak to it, and it looked good up until one injury, and then you
Mm-hmm.
just can't find a way. And let's just say Lonzo comes back and changes up everything. It may work. I think that's what they're all waiting on because I think if Lonzo doesn't come back at all, you lose Vooch for the free. You're 1 year older than with DeMar and Zach.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those situations to where it's just like, if there's no good news from Lonzo Ball within the next 2 months before the NBA trade deadline, I think they build
Mm-hmm.
this up.
You think so?
I believe so because Lonzo, believe it or not, Lonzo was everything on this team last year. Like, we said it plenty
He
of
was the
times in this
glue.
podcast.
Yeah.
We've said it plenty of times. At least I have too. They were the number one
Mm-hmm.
team in the East when Lonzo was playing up until he got hurt. What did I say? What's the
Mm-hmm.
date that I always say? January.
January
What was it?
20th,
January, whatever it was,
20th or something like that. Yeah.
of 2022 was the day that it changed everything for the Chicago Bulls and the way that they're playing today in this calendar year. Just this calendar year alone, last season,
Mm-hmm.
this season combined, just this calendar year. It changes. And if nothing changes from Lonzo Ball, I think AK and Eversley literally look back and be like, you know what? We tried it. It didn't work. All right, let me see what you got. And if they're playing good and if they play good basketball at that time, that's where they probably attack the most and probably get the highest, you know, value for all these players, the Zach, the Lamars, and the Vooches.
So with that being said, then, right, like, I mean, we've talked about it, like what kind of trades will be done. Do you want like picks? Are we looking for picks? Because I feel like we talk a lot about get the superstars, get the proven superstars, because that's the only way you're going to win. But I feel like if we get like a 1 through a 3 pick, that's almost a guaranteed superstar right there, right?
Well, yes and no. It just, yes, you're going to get some NBA players with these trades. You have to, right? It's kind of almost like a must.
Yeah.
Depending, because you're not just going to rely everything on the trade. I mean, not on the trade. I'm sorry, on the draft,
picks,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, and maybe like the players that they get can and maybe be competitive, probably. You know, in this East, that it's still a little bit wide open than how you think, but at the same time, it's kind of like if you tank, you tank, right? And obviously, you're going to give more merit to the coach because you gave him an extension anyways in the offseason that apparently nobody knew about.
Yeah,
And we
just
barely found out
extension.
last week that there was an extension to Billy Donovan. So now Billy Donovan, and I think this is the time where AK and Mark Eversley can build their own Chicago Bulls roster instead of building and tweaking the roster that they inherited, right? And I think Jose said that last year. That's the only thing that AK and Eversley didn't do is just build his own roster from the studs and make it their own house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if push comes to shove, I wouldn't mind the Bulls blowing it up just so we can get fresh faces because at this point, man, nobody's coming. Nobody's going to be here, and the Bulls ain't going to sign anybody anytime soon. So it's kind of like maybe if they do sign a free agent and they draft well or whatever the case may be, that's a stretch and a half for that to happen.
Yeah. I guess, like you said, it really just does depend on how well they're doing, how well these guys are doing. Does Vooch continue kind of his stretch, because so far this year, I mean, this guy's 32 years old, averaging 16.2 points, almost 11 rebounds, almost 50% from the field goal percentage. Like, he's doing really well for a 32-year-old center, right? Like he's doing really well. So hopefully we can get something for him. If not, like you said, blow it up because it's tough to see. We thought with Zach LaVine signing with DeMar here, we're like, oh man, we got our superstars, but it's tough with them to kind of taking the brunt of it, like the responsibility for the game. And a lot of the role players just don't do what they need to do. The bench isn't very good. Ayo hasn't really blossomed like we a lot of us were hoping he would, taking that starting point guard position. P. Will is still kind of like, the jury's still out for P. Will. So, I mean, I don't think you like him very much. I think we've established that. But there's just a lot of question marks, and the bench being a huge question mark for the team. So yeah, like I just figured I'd ask that question because like, man, you know what? Vooch is actually playing really well. Do they make a move for Vooch and, kind of keep it at that? Or like you said, blow the whole thing up. Let's just start over. Let's start with a brand new roster. Like you said, it's Billy Donovan, it's AK and Eversley. Like, let's just see what we can do as a tandem. Right. So, just an interesting conversation to have.
No, I mean definitely, and especially because it's the Chicago Bulls, man, and everything that they gave us last year. We said it was great. We just need the Bulls to be relevant, right? I mean, I think that's all we wanted last year for this team to do this and for them to do that. I think once we got that, it just hasn't been what we originally would have thought would have happened, right? The moves were the moves were stagnant. The moves were this and that. And it just kind of felt like everybody else got better, but the Chicago Bulls. And one injury killed it all. That kind of like I said, that the Lonzo Ball injury just kill the mood and the momentum and everything else that the Bulls were building at that time. So it's kind of like, what else
Was
can you
Lonzo
do?
that guy? Yeah, and was Lonzo that guy? Really? Like, is he that guy?
I mean, it was a strange coincidence. It's not a strange coincidence that the Bulls were the most efficient team shooting threes when Lonzo was there. They're one of the best defensive units when Lonzo was playing. I think the Bulls were in top 5, top 10, I believe, in offense efficiency and assist wise when Lonzo was there. There's a reason why the Bulls were also the number 1 seed for a while, for a period of time before Lonzo's injury. Like, the Bulls were in top 10 in almost every statistical category last year, in the beginning of last year in the NBA season, when Lonzo Ball was playing. Like, it's not a strange coincidence.
Yeah.
Once he left, they became one of the worst teams in the NBA. Meddling with 500 after his injury. Defensive, they were bottom 5. Offensively, they were in mid-table at best, maybe even bottom of the mid-table, like near the top 20. It's not a strange coincidence that once Lonzo went out, man, the Bulls stopped playing. The Bulls started playing like crap.
Yeah, and it really was like he's the glue. He really was the glue because, like you said, they were just more efficient with him on the ground, on the court. He was just like that floor general that you want your point guard to be. He was. I don't want to, talk too highly of him, but he was what Derrick Rose was, in his years in the Bulls, in his prime years with the Bulls. He made everything work pretty much. He made that team work. So it's true. It's not it's a strange coincidence, but like you said, not really a strange coincidence because he may be that guy. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the Bulls. I mean, 2-1 in the last 2. They got the Knicks coming up, like I said, 2 in a row at home, and then they go to Minnesota to take on the Timberwolves. Before we get to our 4 stars of the week, we're gonna do a quick Bears prediction, even though I feel like we kind of know what's up. But I assume Justin Fields is gonna play, even though I don't think he should, because this is just a bad recipe. They're taking on the Eagles at home. They've got a very good defensive line. The Eagles do, and they've just got a high-powered offense. One of the best teams in the NFC take on probably one of the worst teams in the NFC. What is your prediction? How much do the Bears lose by in this game?
How much does the Bears lose by? Wow, not even giving them a shot, huh?
No,
but you're absolutely right. I think when we did our preseason predictions at the JCA Sports Podcast, I think this was the schedule where the Bears were, and this is me predicting the 10-win season, right? That the Bears were gonna go.
Hey, I had them at 11.
I think the Bears were gonna lose 4 out of the next 5 games, right? I think this was the schedule that was gonna be tough, starting with the last week and everything like that. So, there's a lot of high hopes for me out of this one, because the more Justin Fields played, the more experience he gets. He's finally going to see a good defense. How will they match up? Not very well. Can we repeat the same passing performance, mixed in with a few running plays, a lot more running plays for Justin Fields to make the offense be more efficient? Sure. I would love to see the growth of this kid continue. With that being said, the Bears lose by 14 points.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say too. I think they lose by 2 scores easily, and I would even up it up to 21 points.
I think Justin Fields. Now, here's the thing: the quarterbacks sort of kind of mirror each other.
Yeah,
right. They do mirror each other. So if the Eagles have some experience with the Justin Fields-esque type player, I guess you can say. But
defense has to play against what's his name? So Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. So I believe Justin Fields. This may be my Chicago bias, but I still feel I definitely believe with a lot better weapons. I think Justin Fields is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts at the moment, not right now. But I think Justin Fields is going to prove that he's going to be a quarterback that everybody should watch out for the near future. And I think he's going to have a decent performance against the Eagles. It just won't be enough for them to win.
Yeah, I'm kind of expecting the same thing. I feel like he's going to get like 120, 130 rush yards again and a couple scores. I'm I would couple that with an interception or two, and maybe like a passing touchdown. But I think he really just kind of gets the game going again with his legs. What I want to see in this game, I have them losing, by 14 points, at least 2 score, right? Because even with the defense getting Jaquan Brisker and Gordon back, I still don't think this defense is anywhere near good enough to get to Jalen Hurts and just make a dent in this offense. But we've seen crazier things, right? This NFL season has been pretty crazy, so you never know.
You're absolutely right on that one.
Yeah. But what I really want to see is more of a connection between him and Claypool. I want to see Claypool got 5 receptions in the last game. I want to see 8 receptions and over 100 yards for Claypool. I want to see, 10, 11 targets, 8, 9 receptions, something like that, over 100 yards. Like that's kind of what I want to see the relationship between, because we have him for another year. Let's build it over the last 4 games against tough teams like the Eagles, the Bills, the Vikings, and the Lions. Why not, right? Like, let's do it. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to see, but I still got the Bears losing. Justin Fields isn't going to have another good day on the ground.
Let's just hope, man. Let's just hope for the future and for future sakes, man, that this team, this team becomes a little bit more better. And with Justin Fields improving with another good team, and then he has another big test the following week after that with the Bills. Let's just see. Let's just see if he pulls out a good performance.
Yeah, no, 100%.
That's all we're asking for, right?
Really, that's kind of it. Just please, for the love of God, good performance. All right, let's move on to our final segment. We've got 4 stars of the week, brought to you by Old Style. Hopefully, one day soon, Old Style will sponsor this segment.
Goose Island,
Goose Island, 312. Like it just, you guys want to sponsor us? This would be dope. But let's do 4 stars of the week, and for you guys watching us live, throw someone you think deserves to be one of the 4 stars of the week in here. We need at least 2. I don't think Jack gave us 1, so it's me and Eric, but if me and Eric have to, we'll give 2 each. But Eric, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
My first star of the week is Cody Bellinger. Welcome to Chicago, man. That's my first star of the week right there. Cody, welcome to the real baseball team in Chicago.
He's probably like, thank God I didn't go to the Sox. Jesus Christ.
God, anybody right now.
They lost Jose. How do you lose Jose Abreu? Like, right? Like,
right? Shoot.
All right. First star goes to Cody Bellinger. Second star, I am going with DeMar DeRozan. Over these last 3 games, he had 34 against the Hawks, 28 against the Mavs. He had 27 against the Wizards. Just again, putting on a clinic from the mid-range. More than likely, right? It's DeMar, so he's definitely scoring points from the mid-range. So my second star of the week goes to DeMar DeRozan for scoring. What is that, like 80 points or something like that in the last 3 games? He's just stupid. He's kind of like a cheat code from the mid-range. Like if anybody has NBA 2K out there right now and is playing with the Bulls and DeMar, just shoot from the mid-range. But yeah, that's the second star of the week. We don't have anything in the comments yet, but Eric, who you got for number 3?
The third, my second star of the week, right? And for number 3, it's actually the Chicago Bears, and for the Rams actually winning the game on Thursday Night Football, and everybody, the only team that that didn't help them out was the Denver Broncos, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh yeah, true.
But I think they won during their bye, and by that them. For the team that was supposed to be in their consideration, even though it's not the team they're going to get picked for the second round pick, I think the Bears gave themselves a little bit of leeway with them not playing, and still ended up winning and still solidifying their pick at number 2 for the NFL draft. So the Bears for winning this week without even playing.
I love that. I love talking about, like, did they win or did they lose their bye? Just about any team. It's because it's just so funny to me when it's like
this one, the Bears by not playing and everybody else doing their part, even though the Saints were on a bye and the Falcons too as well. But Colts, the Rams winning on Thursday night.
Good times.
Good one. Just the Broncos, man.
Yeah. Kyle wanted to win. They should have won. Like
they should have won.
Right.
We're not riding no more with the Broncos.
No more Broncos country. Let's cry. Let's see here. So the 4th star of the week for me is going to be, there was a story out from oh God, who was it? Let me look it up real quick. It was God, what is his name? Jackson. Steven Jackson. He was on a pod. This is a retired Michael Jordan. That he was when Steven Jackson was on the Bobcats. I think it was like 2009 or something like that.
Mhm.
Jordan had, a minority in a stake in the team, and that he had already been retired for about 7 years or something like that, and that the Bobcats had lost like brutally or something like that. Like they just got their asses kicked or something like that. The next day of practice, Jordan said that he played the game. Jackson said that Jordan came in and played the game and absolutely wiped the floor with the Bobcats team. He wiped the floor with the team. So my fourth star of the week goes to Michael Jordan, 7 years retired and still beat on an NBA team like the Charlotte Bobcats back in like 2009. That's my fourth star of the week. And it's Jordan. It's the GOAT. I mean,
right, it's the GOAT.
Can't be any better than
Some.
that. For some.
For others. That's a whole nother topic of conversation for another podcast and another day.
JCA Sports Podcast.
Ooh,
Tune in.
Definitely. No. Well, no. I think it's unanimous with that one. If anything, Jose is the only one that probably say that LeBron is the GOAT over Michael Jordan.
Who would say that?
Jose.
Of course he would. Tony Basketball? Tony Basketball? Jesus Christ.
I mean, hey, man, you're the one that's giving them the nicknames with the sports, man. I told you not to do it, and then you're going to realize it, and then it's going to be too late because you started a trend that's never going to stop.
He loves it, though. I love the way he just like, yep, that's right, Rick, that's right. I love it so much.
It'd be annoying, man. Trust me.
All right, well, that was 4 stars of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our episode of Big League Chicago today. LBJ is the GOAT. Chill. LBJ is not the GOAT. But yeah, other than that, go check out our other podcasts or other live streams. You just had Eric on for EAFP talking semifinals for the World Cup. Stay tuned. And in just a little bit, once Monday Night Football is over, we're going to have Only Football with Kyle and I talking week 14 and the craziness that started, and who knows what happens with the Patriots and Cardinals, maybe craziness that ends it. And then also we have JCA Sports on. Obviously, you're watching Big League Chicago, Sports Strip Live for all your boxing, MMA, wrestling needs. And then 3 Up, 3 Down for your MLB. Talking free agency with Jack and Alex. And then Slot Shot Hockey Podcast with Ross, Alex, and Jack. They just put out an episode on Friday, I believe, so go tune into that. And yeah, if you guys are watching us on YouTube, if you guys are watching us on Facebook, Twitch, whatever, hit that like button, subscribe, share us, rate us on anywhere you're listening to us, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcast, anything. Just give us a rate. Give us those 5 stars. Give us those 5 stars and give us that, click that share button and that like and that subscribe. Help us out here at Star 6 Media. Eric, you got anything else before we get out of here?
Yeah, man, I need Hunter Henry to go out with an injury or not grab a catch because there's playoff implications on my fantasy football league. I'm barely winning.
Oh no, I need Ramondre Stevenson.
In my one of my best friends from elementary school, right?
Really?
So it's the last week before playoffs, right? He actually does all games. I'm talking about the very last game of the season is a championship game, which is weird. First of all,
does he really? Jesus.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. But I am winning 72-69, and he has Hunter Henry as his tight end who's on the field right now. And I need him to get out of this game as soon as possible. And if I win, I make the playoffs as the 5th or 6th seed in this fantasy football league. So I'm gonna end it with that. And right now I'm getting kind of nervous because they're in the red zone, and any catch that he gets, I lose.
Oh God! What did you want by 1 point?
Well, I don't know, man. If he gets a touchdown, he's gonna win by 3.
Yeah, I need Ramondre Stevenson.
They're kicking a field goal, so I don't need.
Oh, okay.
I don't need him to get 30 more yards. I don't. That's
yeah. You'll be good then.
Hopefully, playoff implications, man. Big money.
I need Ramondre Stevenson to not go crazy in the second half. So as long as he doesn't score what is it? I think like 16 more points. I think I should be in the clear, and I should be like either the 5th or 6th seed in the playoffs too. So we're kind of both hoping for a miracle here. Kyle, thank you for the compliment. Appreciate that.
Man, 5 stars. Thanks, man. Thank you.
See you in a bit here on Only Football, but yeah, hopefully this game ends with Ramondre Stevenson and Hunter Henry not doing shit.
Exactly. That's all we need. So I'm gonna be watching this with a very close eye before I go to bed, man. And I won't sleep. I won't rest easy until they hit 0-0 in the fourth quarter.
So pray for Eric and I. Pray for Eric and I
mean, look, out of the 7 fantasy football leagues that I am in, I'm eliminated in 2. And that's the JCA one that we had. I'm in dead last. Like super dead.
Really?
Yeah. The defending champ in last place, right? The curse of the champion.
That's true. That's true.
And then in another one with one of my former colleagues, I won last week, but the dude that was ahead of me won, so automatically, mathematically eliminated me. And he ended up losing, and I ended up winning. But by head-to-head matchups, I ended up losing. So, but in everything else, I'm fighting for this one. I'm in first in another one, second in another one, third in another one. And I think in John, I think I'm like in 3rd or 4th. So
okay, well, good luck to all those. And Kyle's like,
all of them.
Wow, are they all?
Except for the JCA. JCA one is free. That's the only one.
Oh
JCA
JCA
is free. Is the only free, but all of them are money leagues. And out of a possible, I think the grand total winnings out of all 7 leagues, I think I did the math. I think it was like 1,200. I am still alive for $700, $800, or something like that.
Oh my God! Definitely pray for Eric. Then don't pray for me. Pray for Eric. Jesus Christ!
I need one, and
he needs at least 2. One.
Yeah, there's one. There's no trophy. There's only trophy in 2, which is in 3, which is the JCA one, the one that John has that we've been for years, and the one with my best friend, the one that I'm barely scrapping for the playoffs. There's a trophy in those. All the other ones is just money.
Nice. And then Kyle's like, "Wow, you want all the players to get hurt? That's so messed up. Not hurt, just out of the game,
just out of the game, just like a mild like a bruise on the thigh or something, or a bruised tailbone, something.
Yeah, anything. Something where it's like, it's a cramp.
I never wish for injury on anybody. I just don't want him to like not do anything on that one. That's all.
Well, Kyle, you got some good words from Kyle. Good luck, my brother. So
I appreciate
hopefully
it. Hopefully
you get some luck. But all right, man.
I'll tune into you guys later in the show.
Sounds good. Thanks for coming on, everybody, on Big League Chicago. Eric, thank you for joining me. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed the show. We will see you guys next time. Stay tuned for Only Football. See ya.
Yes. See ya.